back. Excessive Celebration. Billy Bell and Scott Owens here on Crossover Radio. That's radio with a purpose. You can listen to us if you download the Crossover Radio app from 4:30 to 6:30 every Friday. Excessive Celebration with this guy and this guy, Lance and Dash. That's who we are. Bill, real quick, before we go into our look at Major League Baseball and I just start sobbing on the air so that everybody can hear it, I want to mention something. We're located, our offices and our studios happen to be at Serve Coffee. Serve Coffee is in downtown Bethany, right across from Southern Nazarene University, and it is the home of Crossover Radio. And during the month of August, Serve is collecting paper for Bethany schools. If you bring in a modicum of paper in some form, let's say a ream of paper, you're going to get 10% off your order of coffee or the beverage of your choice. That's through the month of August to support Bethany Public Schools at Serve Coffee, downtown Bethany. Don't forget to come by. A modicum. That's somewhere in between a dark roast and a medium roast, a modicum roast. And having a modicum of success, which is very little at this point in the Major League Baseball season, are the Boston Red Sox, who are now 16 games out of first place behind the Yankees. So I'm sure that some of my family members that are Yankees fans and haters of the good guys are having a good time with this. But they are the defending world champions, are they?
I think they're looking back on it thinking, yeah, we probably should have made a move over the trade deadline.
Too late. Yeah, they should have. So, Bill, Major League Baseball, the East in the American League.
Well, real quick, let's talk about the Mets and how brilliant they look now.
Hey, they are at least in the conversation for a wild card, Bill.
Everybody, including probably me and Lance over here, we're writing the Mets off, going, "What are you doing? You're keeping Syndergaard. You're keeping. Now you've got Stroman. You're keeping. I mean, like it."
Lance may have, but
right. Scott knew it was coming.
Destiny's dark.
Right. And so you made all these trades and you thought they were going to be sellers, but somehow, and now you look at them and you're going, well, you know what? That pitching staff's going to be kind of tough. Even if they can't hit the ball that great, they're going to be kind of tough. And Alonso in his rookie year is killing the ball. And by the way, they still got a couple people on the injured reserve list who are going to come back at some point. And yeah, they might be a little dangerous, especially in a one-game playoff situation. So yeah, I'm not sold on the Mets, but they could be scary. They could be a scary team.
I think they got to get past the Nationals, though, Bill, because you got to figure that whoever doesn't win between the Cubs and the Cards is going to get one of those. Well, and frankly, the Brewers only 2.5 back. They're at 521, so the Mets have their work cut out for them. They're going to have to. I think they got to get ahead of Washington to have a shot.
And I think the Nationals are only scary for 4 reasons. 4 reasons being Strasburg when he's on elite level pitcher. Soto, one of the younger bats in the league that is going to develop into a really good player. If you haven't watched Soto play, go watch a Nationals game. Rendon, when he's hitting, that team can be really scary, but sometimes Rendon is off and really off, and they look really bad. Trey Turner can steal bases like no other, but can you get Trey Turner on base? And I haven't even mentioned
who about pitching?
Well, that's Strasburg.
But then, since the very beginning.
But then yeah, and then you've got now I can't even remember his name. What's his name? What's his name with 2 different colored eyes? Came from Detroit.
Spitz-Dollar.
That is him.
We'll get back to you on this name. It's
right there. It's right there. Somebody online is yelling at me, going, "It's yeah," and I just totally blanked on his name, but he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball for 5-6 years, and I just can't remember his name now.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that as the Mets go, the
Matt
Red.
Scherzer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Email at home. Whoever said that.
Yeah. Yes.
But they could be scary, and especially in a 5 to 7 game series, if you're throwing Scherzer and then you're throwing Strasburg and then possibly short rest having to face Scherzer in a game 4, it could be a tough series. But with the Nationals, it's where their bats go. I think they can win 1 or 2 games in a series, but I don't think they can win the whole thing, and I think they're pretty limited offensively of what they can do.
Did you happen to see the play last night, the Braves against the Marlins, towards the end of the game when the right fielder threw out the base runner?
Are you talking, is it no, you're not talking about the pitcher, are you?
No.
Okay.
No. I can't remember who it was for the Marlins. It was basically a base hit to right center. And the guy makes the turn, and the right fielder just threw a bullet to first base and got him before he got back to the bag, and I think he ended the drama in that ball game. But Atlanta's doing really well, Bill. You want to stay with the National League. You've got Atlanta 6.5 ahead of the Nationals. Again, a game and a half back from there are the Mets. Phillies, really, they're only a game back. Really, the Marlins are the only ones that are legitimately out of it at this point.
You know what? You could probably say at a good stretch at that point that the Marlins were playing better than anybody in that division. Phillies, I think, are done. I thought adding Segura and obviously Bryce Harper was going to help that team, and they were going to turn some stuff around. Franco dropped off. Hopkins has had his struggles this year, and pitching staff's never really been there for the Phillies this year. So I don't know where Nola went, but he was amazing last year and just kind of fallen on hard times this year. The Braves are the cream of this crop. They should win this division pretty easily. Can they get their pitching together? They've got enough young talent, and Freddie Freeman still there, which I'm glad to see Freddie finally on a winning team.
Yeah, they're much more balanced than they've been in terms of defense and enough hitting, and then
Albies finally came around, who was struggling for the beginning part of this season, and pretty much until the All-Star break was just really struggling, and then all of a sudden just picked it up and started hitting again.
And the Central, the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Brewers are all right there together, and Cincinnati's 7 back at this point. Yeah. Pirates may be in trouble, but any of those teams are still legitimately in a chance to win the division and certainly in line for at least one of the wild card spots.
Yeah, I think it's out of all those teams, I think obviously the Cubs will probably win your division, but I think the Brewers are going to come away with one of those wild card spots. The Cardinals don't scare me. They're a team that's...
They're limited, Bill. I think they play on fumes sometimes.
I don't know what they're doing because you still have Molina, and he's not the Molina of old. You've got Carpenter. Their pitching's old.
I'm sorry.
Yachty. You know who Yadier Molina's biggest fan is, don't you?
I will.
Rachel.
Rachel likes Yadier. And how do you know that, Bill?
They've got a couple of pictures on Facebook, I guess, whenever her and Philip went to a couple of these Cardinal games.
Right.
And I don't know if they met him or not, but she's a big fan, they're a big Cardinals fan.
I just think it's fun to say.
Probably outside of Pudge, the either first or second best catcher I've ever seen play Major League Baseball.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, Johnny Bench was nothing without Pete Rose.
There you go.
That's what Pete said. Any reason to even bring up the National League West other than to go, hey, there's 4 other teams in the league, but nobody cares anymore. Dodgers up 19 games, Bill.
The team that I find...
What is this, the AFC East in football?
The team that I find that, I don't know what has happened to, but the Rockies, like you've got Trevor Story, you've got Blackmon. I mean, I know pitching's always going to be an issue, but you've got Arenado, probably the best third baseman to come through baseball in a long time. It's just why does this team feel like it doesn't mesh ever? The Dodgers, I think the Dodgers are a little bit overrated and overhyped. I think they do have a good rotation. I don't think their pitching's all the way there yet. Obviously, Kershaw's had his struggle. Bellinger can hit. Muncy can hit. They've got some guys in the lineup with pop. But eventually, somebody's going to figure out a way. It's going to take a team that's going to do, I'm sorry to say, it's some Oakland Athletics small ball and, you know, bunt a couple of times. You know, beat them the old-fashioned way. And I know people hate to hear that.
No, but I think that's where a team like the Milwaukee Brewers
Right.
could be dangerous against a team like Los Angeles.
And the thing about Milwaukee is that they should and could do it either way. With
Yeah.
Yelich in that lineup, what's his name?
But I have more faith in their ability.
Struggling for names today for
I
some
have
reason.
more faith in their ability to pull that off than I do the Cardinals
Yeah.
and maybe even the Cubs.
Yeah.
For that very reason, and I don't even know how much they're being tested right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and everybody else in their division, the best anybody else is doing is 500 in the last 10. That's I think we can safely say Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, and most likely the Nationals and either the Cardinals or the Brewers.
I think the biggest question, and you can say this about all of these teams, do you feel safe with any of these pitchers on the mound? Like you, on all these teams, whoever you want to consider their ace going into let's say a one game series. So whether it be Kershaw, Rich Hill, maybe Walker Buehler for the Dodgers, maybe that's about as comfortable as you can get. I don't think there's anybody for the Cubs that you feel comfortable with, and I don't think there's anybody for the Braves you feel comfortable
Were
with.
you surprised the Cubs didn't do more in terms of looking at even maybe middle or late relief? Because I think we talked a little bit about that maybe a month or so ago.
Yeah, I mean, you can say yes, but you don't ever know what the asking price is for some
Yeah,
of these.
or what they would be worth giving
Right.
up or what have you.
I mean, do you, and especially now in a day and of age where you've shortened the timetable of when you can do all this. Now, obviously, you still have some leeway of buying people out or releasing people and people picking those guys up. So you can still kind of get away with some stuff, but the way I heard explained the best is a lot more teams value young prospects, and they are they're in a win now, but they're also in a win now, but also hold on to what I think is a great value. So they're not going to give your 1s, 2s, 3s. They're going to give you their 4 through 8 guys who could be something in about 2 years, not the guys that are ready now. And there's only a couple of teams that did that, and that was the Astros getting Greinke. There's not a lot of teams that are willing to do that.
It's fascinating that was your answer, because just before you went down that pathway, I was going to ask you. Bill's our resident expert here on this, but it's a little more difficult, at least as I see it, to try to follow or predict or have an idea with these trades in Major League Baseball, for example, versus the NFL, because of the farm system and these assets that are buried so far below, where only general managers and people in the know may have a real idea of the value of any of those people and what they may bring or not bring in terms of a trade where there are assets that may be in AA ball for all we know, as opposed to a 55-man roster in the NFL, where you know what they've got capable of moving or not moving, or the NBA.
Think about it this way. So let's say you have X player. So no matter who it is, he's ready to be called up, right? But you're a team that is slotted. So like say the Astros, you're slotted to win now. Even with your current lineup, rotation, you're slotted to win now. You're one of the teams that's heavily favored already to be in the World Series. You give up your second, your third, and your like fifth best prospect to win now with an ace, another ace that you probably didn't need. So was it worth it? Is it not worth it? But the other side of that is, do we truly know what these guys are going to be? Because there's been a lot of times where we've had some big name, and not just in baseball, in every sport.
Right.
Big name players that you think that are going to just crush it in the big leagues, and they just don't pan out. They tend to be journeymen at that point, and they're the next reclamation
Right.
product. He's going to get his swing back. Well, he doesn't, but let's pay him another $20 million, and he'll get his swing back. No, so we don't know yet.
Yeah, it makes the
It's
casual
more
fan, it
unproven.
makes it really tough to have any idea what value there is in the farm system and what they may be able to do, because the only people that really know are the people that are getting paid to know that. And it's fascinating. Bill, if we need to take a break, we'll come back and talk the American League. This is fascinating, and it really is a different culture than these other sports where even, an old guy like me can pretty much figure out who's on a 55-man roster and who's capable of providing value in a trade or a swap or a player to be named later or any of the above.
Lance just got traded for some Slim Jims.
I hope they're not the hot ones. They kind
No.
of tear me up a little
Yeah,
bit.
I'm with you.
Billy, how do people listen, and how do they correspond with us, and how do they answer our poll question, which is yet to be determined for this week?
Well, you can find us on Crossover Radio, get that app, or Excessive Celebration on Facebook.com and Twitter. Talk to Scott. Talk to Billy. Talk to whoever you want on Twitter. Talk trash. Talk noise. We welcome it. We welcome you to Excessive Celebration.
If you want to talk trash, we're the Oscar the Grouches of the trash talking. We're in that can with you.
There you go. Get that app.
Timing's everything right here at Excessive Celebration. And as we speak, coolness invades. And I'm not just talking me and Bill. Ooh, man, the breeze is nice. The music.
It sounds like a kid's cartoon show.
Tommy and the Tinies. Gonna save the world from the bad, mean, industrialist Heinies. There it is. Well, I don't know who's going to save the world in the American League East, because it looks like it's the Yankees and Astros world, and everybody else is just spinning around in it.
I would agree with that.
Back to Excessive Celebration. Billy Bell still dropping some knowledge on us when it comes to the MLB. Talked a little bit about the National League. Now, Bill, I just looking at the Yankees, looking at Houston, Cleveland and Minnesota may make some noise, but tell me why I should pay attention to anybody but those first two teams.
Well, if the if the Yankees keep getting injured, I mean, there may be good reason to look at somebody else besides. You just had Encarnacion go down with a broken wrist this week.
Should I be sad about that?
It doesn't.
I never had somebody getting hurt, but if somebody has to get hurt, might as well be wearing blue.
It doesn't seem like it's mattered though. With as horrible as their pitching staff has been, no, we're just going to outscore you. We're going to put up a 12 spot. No, we're going to put up a 15 spot. Like, it hasn't mattered. I'm happy to see that LeMahieu is getting his due, because forever he was hidden in Colorado. And I don't think a lot of people paid attention to what he really can do, and he finally is shining in New York like he should have been in Colorado. Pitching staff wise, I don't know if James or if Paxton is ever going to get it back. I don't know that CeCe's got enough to get it back, and Tanaka's a hit and miss all over the place. I don't know if they can outscore everybody in a playoff situation, especially when they run up against the likes of the Astros and what they've acquired over the trade deadline. Greinke in his first outing looked like Greinke in his last outing. I mean, Greinke's. I don't know if there's a more cerebral pitcher in the league, but man, Greinke can really spin a ball, and even more so now with the Astros.
Yeah, let me ask you this, and we talked a little bit about Tampa, and I'm not convinced that they're for real in terms of longevity in the playoffs.
Right.
What about Oakland? I think, we look at Cleveland, we look at Minnesota, we talked about the top teams in the East. and the West, Houston and New York. Tampa Bay sitting there, but at 67 and 51, 10 games out, but not that far out of the wild card, sits the Athletics. Are they a threat at all?
They're, they're only scary because they've been doing it with other people besides Chris Davis.
Okay.
Pitching staff doesn't scare me. Chris Davis scares me. When he's hot, and probably the best power hitter in the league. But I don't think you need to be worried about Oakland if you're any of those teams. I think when you get them into a series, they don't have enough pitching depth to really make a run at anything. But the Rays are scary because they do have an ace in Blake Snell,
Right.
who can be one of the best pitchers in the league. All their hitting is really, really young. I think the Rays are reasonably a year or two away from really being a serious contender.
But
Especially
is the Bill,
Astros
is the
kind of break down.
difference between the Athletics and the Rays the fact that the Rays might be able to get a win in the first game of a
Yeah.
short series
Yeah.
or a wild card game or whatever?
Yes, because they do have a legitimate ace. That's the biggest difference.
All right. What about the Twins and the Indians? They're you get those two teams are sitting side by side. The closest one to them after that is the Say It Ain't So Joe Chicago White Sox, who are 18 back and remarkably have a 16.5 game advantage over the Detroit Tigers, who are continuing to pay the price for some very stupid contracts and decisions made by the late owner of that ball club.
Well, and they were at a sell mode, so that's the best thing that the Cubs did on the other side was get Castellanos. I can't pronounce the last name. But he's been marvelous since going over to the Cubs. Nick Castellanos, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Smith.
Yeah, Nick Smith. You know that guy.
They're all signed.
The Twins could be scary. Is the best way I can phrase that. Nelson Cruz went down a little this last game. They could be scary. I don't know for how long. They're leading the league in home runs, so they're obviously a little bit of a threat. I don't know that they have enough pitching outside of Barrios to be a real threat.
What's interesting, Bill, is they've got the second best away record in the American League. Only the Tampa Bay Devil Rays have won more games on the road than Minnesota has. But, they're 5-5 in their last 10, 3 back from where Cleveland is. So they've lost a little bit of ground. But from a pitching standpoint, do they have a chance? I mean, it looks like, at least to me, pitching tends to be what carries you on a road series. If you're winning more than everyone else, then you're probably getting out to a pretty good start, winning that first game on the road. Is that evident by the pitching staff? They're top. They're top of the rotation. Is that why? Or if that was the case, would they be better than 36 and 26 at home?
Well, so as far as Indians or Twins, right? If you've got to pick one, I think you lean a little bit more towards the Indians because of Francona.
Yeah.
I don't think either of these two teams have really separated themselves that greatly from each other, just because they're kind of the same team. It's just how they go about it is just a little bit different, as far as obviously the Twins leading baseball in home runs, and also on a pace to break a record that eventually that's going to wear off. And normally those home run balls, as we've seen, when you get down to playoff time, it involves pitching. And if you have the pitchers, they're going to find a way to shut down these hitters. You get into all these analytics of launch angles and stuff like that. Well, that's great, but do you have a guy that can throw at 90 and break it about 60 feet in front of somebody's ankles? I don't think any of those teams are scary. I don't think with the moves that the Indians made to get Puig and Reyes are enough. I think getting Kluber back helps. It gives them a real ace, and especially getting rid of Bauer. I don't know that they're going to make it out of the first round. I don't think the Twins would make it out of the first round.
Well, how? If you're tasked with being the person that's responsible for keeping behinds in seats at Tiger Stadium, when you're 34 and a half games out. Your record is 35 and 80. What kind of swag do you have to give away to get people in the stands? That's another fascinating thing to me about Major League Baseball is, the Thunder's going to have a tough time, but there's still going to be people coming to see them play. Now, will it wane if they're, 15 and 40 after the All-Star break or something? Probably. But baseball is unique in that you've got another 45 or 50 games to go, and really no reason for anybody to show up and watch
I,
that.
I think the only way you make that happen, and it's not going to happen because he hasn't said anything, is this is Miguel Cabrera's last year.
Yeah.
That's the only way you get people there. Now,
To pay homage to them.
having gone and seen the outside, I've never been inside. I've seen I say that, I take that back. I have seen the inside. Their stadium is one of the nicest stadiums I've seen. And I don't know if that's going to keep fans' attentions long enough, or what kind of, as you were saying, what kind of memorabilia you're going to have to kind of pawn off. But outside of anything of going, hey, you know what, Miguel's going to hang it up after this year. This is his farewell.
A Mark Fidrich bobblehead.
Yeah.
Bird dog.
And that's another thing. So when you were trading, Green to the Braves and, getting rid of assets to everybody, why wouldn't you trade Miguel Cabrera? Somebody out there is probably going to want him. I mean, just as a DH alone, you're telling me the Yankees wouldn't want to pick him up?
Right. I mean, are they literally the Philadelphia 76ers of Major League Baseball? Except it appears, at least, that Philadelphia trusts the process. People got sick of hearing that.
Right.
But they have come back around, not full circle, but at least 270 degrees to be a factor and relevant. Is that what's happening with Detroit, or are we still seeing it bottoming out before we ever see the sunshine again?
We haven't seen a full breakdown in Detroit yet. We haven't seen that full sell through. The places that you're seeing that are like Seattle. So Seattle's totally committed. Outside of Felix Hernandez, have been totally committed to the full rebuild and build through the system, which they should have done like 10 years ago.
Is this similar to when Jeffrey Loria took over the Marlins, or Dombrowski? One of those took over the team after they had won a title and just dismantled.
Yeah, because they, from what I remember of that, there was it's not self-sustained in that market.
Yeah, Dombrowski wasn't Loria.
They weren't going to be able to keep those players, and because the contracts worked out right, like he fully understood that. Because of that market, there was no way to keep those players, and the contracts just hit right.
So then, you get what you could,
right,
and you start up kind of Thunders.
Yeah.
So, are we looking Yankees, Astros, unless a comet hits the planet or something?
I don't see. I mean, who else? What third team do you think could jump up there?
I just don't see it. Again, you mentioned Cleveland. We talked a little bit about Minnesota, but it's pitching. Right. And when you have decent pitching and the hitting that the Yankees have, and just the overall talent that's spread around the field for the Astros, I just don't see it.
Let me ask you this. So as underwhelming as it's been for him, if you're Mike Trout, how many more years do you give it with the Angels?
Just somebody will let me go. As soon as I can hit the road. It reminds me of the old Jake Johansson, the comedian who said he grew up in Iowa and left there when he realized that he was free to leave. So,
because you can't.
He's wasting away out there.
And you can't say they haven't tried. At least that's what I liked out of the Angels. They've tried to put players around him, but they haven't worked out. And truly, if he's okay with staying in Anaheim and kind of floundering around, I mean, you would think eventually that they're going to get there and do something in the playoffs, but
I could see him moving across town.
Wow. I mean, you got to think he's going to go somewhere. I honestly, I don't think he's going to go to a big market. Well, I say that. next year he's in a Red Sox jersey. I mean, it could be. I mean, it's
He could be wearing. He could be just across town next year as well. He
you know
could be wearing a Dodger jersey because it's a cold, cruel world.
in a team that I would like to see him on, just because I'd find it very interesting. Because I think in 2 years you're going to be hearing a lot about Tampa Bay. Go stick him in there with that outfield with Lowe and everybody else. I think they could be a scary team.
I like what you said first. I'd rather see him in Red Sox.
Red Sox. I don't know. I
just make my day.
I would just find it tough floundering around your whole career, not making it anywhere. All these expectations. They bring in Pujols. They bring in Kinsler and a couple of other Hamilton who didn't work out at all. But you've brought in some big name guys and just nothing. And I don't know what it is. It's just nothing. Like it doesn't. Is it a chemistry thing?
Is it the Housewives of Orange County?
It might be.
Or, Bill, is it spider bites?
Probably spider bites.
League Baseball, we've wrapped that up for now. When we come back, QB or not QB? That is the question we'll ask right here on Crossover Radio. That's radio with a purpose. And Bill, if we've got time, I just want to say Serve Coffee is the home of Crossover Radio. During the month of August, they're collecting paper for Bethany schools. So when you come to Serve here on 39th Street in downtown Bethany, bring a ream or some other form of paper, and you'll get 10% off your order of a cup of coffee or other fascinating beverage right here at Serve, home of Crossover Radio. Bill?
Find us on Facebook, Excessive Celebration. Also find us on Twitter, Excessive Celebration. And always, please remember to serve up that app.